all stakeholders and all of the leaders working together on the strategy, and pretty sure that can only possible be for like a very early startups, like a startup on a growth stage. I've got an understanding of like how to drive traffic to websites, and like since then I've never left the advertising domain itself, and I've stick like to different agencies, leading them like from a different leading different teams inside these like performance online agencies, and then switched to my current position to Office, and it's kind of like a very different point of view. And it's like a SaaS connected, product connected, and it's super interesting for me. And I think like my route itself actually like serious route in terms of career growth and the skills growth started from my work at Office, and I've switched from sales manager. Then I understand that I have like a super incredible knowledge of this sphere, and I'm not only selling to customers, but I'm also onboarding customers and then leading them, and that's how I switched to customer success manager and build up the team in the company, and then got to chief revenue officer position, and it's a very interesting one for me. Like I consider myself as a junior chief revenue officer for now, and I'm still growing, and there is definitely huge room to grow. And at this moment, at this company life cycle stage, it's more like my position and my responsibilities as CRO is like a gap filler or like band-aid or any other analogies. I like the one actually from the movie Pulp Fiction. If you remember, they got the character, the wolf, whom they call every time when some troubles happen. So they call this guy to solve those troubles. So yeah, sometimes I see an analogy to this character in my current responsibilities. So I need to fill the gaps and like pass the work to new hires we have. But in general, my understanding of CRO responsibilities to make sure that all revenue teams cooperate efficiently, they do not contradict each other with their strategies, and they do not contradict each other with the KPIs they have. And like after that established part, just look for new revenue opportunities in sales conversion rates, or like in a new pricing approach, new pricing tests, or having a data to define customer profiles so that will go really well for cross-sells, upsells, and like bring more expansion. So kind of like that.
Fantastic, Tanya. That's a great overview. Yeah, you describe yourself as a junior CRO. What's it been like taking that step into the position, and I guess taking everything you've learned along the way? How did you find the first 6 months, and how do you reflect?
I find them challenging a lot, because it's a very different mindset, and it's a very different number of people whom you should lead. And it's not only like you're direct with peers, yeah, but still there is like a bunch of people over there whom you should set an example of communication, like in the first place, of having the work done, of your approach, and like broadcast the values you believe, the company values and like the business values you believe in. And it's quite challenging, but it's also something that shows that there is a huge opportunity for me to learn from other people. And I believe that like there are no better benefits in work rather than opportunity to learn from other people who might be like more senior than you, or on the same level, or on a junior level, but like with an amazing fresh approach to things. So having an opportunity to work with great people around, I think that's the one that is like more beneficial than every other company perks that you can get. And this is something I have right now in this position, an opportunity to learn from an incredible people around.
That's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, learning is always key. So moving on to the main theme of the conversation, it's linking tactics and strategy through data. As we know in sales and for CROs, data is increasingly important into how they do their job. So we're going to have a scenario here, Tanya. You know, your board have set a clear strategy and they've had their related objectives. How do you help them visualize, you know, where you are? Are you folks on track? What's the story behind the strengths, weaknesses, ops, and threats? So it's visualizing what's going on. How do you help them do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So first of all, it's more like a work for our founders team right now to broadcast this story of success or not success, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities for company to the board team members. But in general, like having an understanding that everything is on track or not, it's kind of like very easy because it's a reflection of indicators like lagging indicators. Revenue, is a new revenue coming or not? Is customer base growth is growing or not? Is the churn rates normal? And like how is going with the headcount within the team? And of course, like sharing some highlights for very important contracts like high brand value, uh, high revenue impact. So kind of like this information to be broadcasted to the board, and that will give them an understanding if the things are going well or not.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so you mentioned lots of leading or lagging indicators there. Like, what are the main ones you use? What are the main metrics you use to help them understanding the performance of the sales team?
Yeah, so in general, the board understanding it's more important to see how the business is performing rather than like a separate units inside the business, right? So unless like the board have a specific committee to check like within the sales, within the bargaining or etc. But that's definitely like in metrics. That will be checked like again churn rates, new revenue growth, the general annual run rate growth, account values, average account values, well, like kind of like that, and conversion rates within the different life cycle stages of the sales.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so of those metrics you just mentioned, to what extent are they designed to show the good and the bad? And you know, perhaps maybe sometimes we have to plant a seed of future performance, and performance we're expecting but not yet seen.
That's a good one. Yeah, give me 1 second to think about this one. So again, we have a historical data collected, right? So we have this understanding of how the things should go to be smooth, right? So if we need to reach the new revenue target, that means that we should like have the pipeline filled by sales manager, and we know that like we have the average conversion rate, for example, from one stage to another stage, and do we have like we can ask a simple question, do we have enough leads on the pipeline to complete the target? If not, then let's go deeper and like check it on a lower level, and thus like you're asking and going more and more into data to have this understanding whether it's like a good condition or bad condition. And that's actually like a pretty standard metrics that every sales leader within our team or like everywhere in the world is gonna check, like what's the sales life cycle, what's the sales cycle, is it going okay or it's like too delayed, how are the leads going through pipeline, what are the bottlenecks, and what are the areas of improvement.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, that's great. So you know, at some point we're going up from the board here, but at some point the strategy we've really been talking about, it becomes tactical on the ground, especially with the sales team, but also like you said with all of the departments really, given that you're CRO. How do you handle this key handover and who's involved?
So right now at the company, we've reached one milestone, like the big one for us, and heading to the next one. And that means for us very serious change into sales structure, processes, metrics, like everything, almost everything. And we've changed the sales structure, and right now we adopted a bit a structure of a board. It's kind of a combination of account executives, SDRs, and onboarding managers, and the whole team is like working towards a very specific direction. In our case, it's like geographical allocation, and each pod has its sales leader. Those sales leaders are responsible for executing strategy, and the good part about not missing anything while handing over like this strategy is to work on the strategy together with the sales leaders. And that's actually our case. So we work together very closely because and to define our strategy. And that means that we do not have like this a handover in original meaning, but of course, like after finalizing the company strategy, we decompose it into parts and then assign responsible departments. And in example with the sales teams, our board sales leaders, they are preparing a quarter-based plan for execution, specifically for their market that they're responsible for. So in our domain, markets have some advertising markets has specifics, and we are trying to have them in the strategy in general, and then like in the execution of the strategy per specific pod leader. So kind of we have all stakeholders and all of the leaders working together on the strategy, and I'm pretty sure that that can only possible be for like a very early startups or like on a early like a startup on a growth stage, but it's not going to work like that so for late stage businesses. But probably that's something I'm gonna be aware of and get learned from when we're gonna move to the next stage of the company life cycle. But for now, it's very convenient because we are working all together on this strategy.
That's really cool. I love that idea. So you have, your pod leads, and you actually develop the strategy with those folks. They're involved in the planning.
Exactly. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
really interesting. I'd imagine sometimes their feedback might tell you something you might not have realized before, or because I suppose they're the eyes on the ground, right? So I'm really interested to hear what you learn when you get pod leaders or silo leaders involved in the strategic planning and how that changes strategic planning.
Well, it can change significantly if the team lead or if the leader is showing you and is able to present information that might like have the general rethinking of the whole strategy. Again, we have like a very strong geographical distribution because we are working like in the market like India or China or these countries. And so the presence of the teams there means that they obtain like a key knowledge about the market at the moment. And um, they might show us like an opportunities or the threats on the opposite side. And because of that, we can make our strategy like more precise add something maybe to our product roadmap that might also be very useful. For example, if we will face some threats from the local competitor and we just like need to adjust our product to give it more value for local customers, or like the opposite, we are doing so great that we are already like on a top one position for the market and we're only gonna expand there. And thus probably there is not much to be done from like marketing and sales perspective rather than like attracting new customers, but more attaining, renewing them. And thus probably we can again specify a strategy not to invest that much in marketing and sales for this specific unit. So yeah, and communicating in this case with those leaders on the place is the key, I think, to have a real strategy rather than something being planned and done like not realistically and not possible to be executed.
That's really cool. It's really cool how they're involved in connecting you with and being connected with other departments. We always say, how do we connect sales and marketing? And it sounds like, Tanya, that's a really clever way of doing it. which feeds really nicely onto our alignment piece, right? That's the second thing we'll talk about a little bit today. So you kind of touched on it there, but let's take a step back from that specific example. What's some of the fundamental ways of driving communication between different revenue teams?
Well, yeah, I see like sharing responsibilities for projects and ideas, to have both team involved, not specifically like not obligatory in every project, but to have them some common projects. It can be, for example, as you mentioned, sales and marketing, um, account-based marketing work. It requires both team to be present and to fulfill like their responsibilities to reach one goal, right? To get some enterprise customer on board, for example. And so let's make sure also, just to make sure that every team member knows what the other team is working on, and thus it will give like everyone an understanding that everyone is putting his piece into the common work. And we try to give everyone updated, and not only on the positive things, but also on bottlenecks and some stuff that not going well. And I think it's really important to not only for leaders to tell that something is not going wrong, but for me as well to say that kind of like these mistakes happen or these failures happen, because it creates this kind of an open culture where people understand that they might have mistakes and it's okay. It's a business. It's not possible not to make mistakes, right? But what differentiates you is what you have done, what you have learned from these mistakes, and like what are your plans further. So yeah, like talk to each other. We have our bi-weekly and monthly meetings. We prepared monthly company digest where every team reflects like what's going on within the month. So what were the good parts, what were the bad parts. We've tried to share our customer feedbacks, like making some screenshots with the funny ones, or like the bad ones as well. They might also have a very nice impact on everyone. And I truly believe that non-revenue teams should be as well aware about what's going on, about the revenue, about the sales, as like as a revenue team members. So for example, for developers, they might not be that much into what's going on with the revenue, but they should be aware, right? If some important sales contracts happen, like some or high value contract happens. And we have a channel in Slack where the bot sends updates on each sales deal, together with some like iconic phrase from movies from 19s, like Home Alone or Die Hard. And it just like creates this atmosphere that we do have some success going on, and everyone knows that the team is working on that.
Okay, that's incredible. I really like the idea around, open approach to learning and making mistakes. It's a business, that's what happens. And everyone needs to be able to see into what each other's doing. It sounds like that's something you believe in quite strongly yourself, Tanya. But what other stakeholders are involved in creating a collaboration culture? And how do you personally like get them involved and bring them into the project?
Well, I'm a lucky one because like all the stakeholders and me were like on the same level of like seeing the company culture and the company itself. And I do believe in approach to corporate culture where the company is being positioned not like a family, but a sports team. So why? Because there is no unnecessary roles in the sport team, right? So everyone has its own thing to do. Everyone has its own impact to get those big win for the company. And stakeholders' role to create this performance culture is to act as a trainer, explain tactics, choose some key roles, key players, analyze results, broadcast them to a team. And this approach is very close to me and to stakeholders across the company, because, well, for team, it's okay to choose members who are performing well, who are performing incredibly well, and who are collaborative, right? And if you position company as a family, it's quite hard to explain like why you should get rid of a family member because he's not performing. No, it's not working like that. And That's a message from stakeholders. So be very transparent about results and make sure team knows the strengths and weaknesses of team players and talk to players like that.
That's great. Okay, talk to players. Out of all of this stuff, Tanya, what tech have you implemented that's had a positive impact? And that could either be for the data piece of discussion or the alignment piece.
By tech, you mean like technological tools?
Tools, yeah, like anything you use, like basically what tech do other CROs need to think of and be aware of that's going to help them either with data and strategy or alignment? What's really helped you?
Well, we've actually divided, I think, like almost every CRO divided each department, and each department has its separate technological stack. And for example, for KSM, for customer success managers, we adopted about a year ago, which on customer success software, Churn Zero, guys, which give like an incredible overview, not only for customer success managers, but for me as well, about what's going on, about what's the health zone for our customers. I'm able to dive into this one to define the perfect segments where we can put our expansion efforts together with the customer success team. So of course, it's like any for data analysis, we have both our internal panel, we have our BI tool to have like everything into one place to be able to analyze like churn not only on a global level, but on a very like specific geographical level or plan usage level, or to find some dependencies between the customer health score and the churn level. And demand, like I think like the interesting technology tool we've adopted recently is, it's not super connected to data analytics, but it's more about improving the sales process, and it's a data enrichment tool. So it enriched our contacts with the data, and thus I'm able to see, so those contacts that our marketing is driving, do they fit into our customer profiles? Are they good? So that gives me insights into, do we got those right leads on board?
Superb, thank you. Everyone loves nerding out over tech, so it's always good to keep up with the tech landscape. Final question, Tanya. If you're in a room full of CROs, and let's imagine just the best to ever have done it, what would you ask them?
I would ask them about what's gonna be their, like, if I ask them what's gonna be their like biggest accomplishment, and how do they find the one? So that it happened based on their analytics, or probably it was an intuition and like gut feeling, let's say so. And I will ask like how then they execute it, how they check this idea, how they analyze the data, and how they convince the team that they should go for it. So that's going to be my question about like the biggest one, the biggest accomplishment. And it's actually pretty, it might seem an easy one, but usually people are much well aware of some failures rather than defining their biggest success. And but the general overview and like thinking about your biggest success is going to be the one that will explain me this person how it thinks, and how it defines and how it sees the world.